Hey everybody, I'm Derek Gundy and welcome to my studio. Tonight I'm working on finishing up a book that I started in the fall of 2020, illustrating the churches of Venice, or not all the churches, but I chose 21 of my favorites. And I spent most of the fall and early winter doing the illustrations. The illustrations are finished. Now I'm doing the writing, laying out the book. And it's a very new thing to me, so it's proving to take a little bit longer than I thought it would, but it's a really good experience so far. But here is one of the original watercolor illustrations of the Chiesa di San Rocco, the Church of San Rocco in Venice, and then it's going to be bound here. And then on this page, we'll be writing about the church, a map of Venice showing you where it is. And then I have a little bit of room right in this area for a little spot illustration. I think I'm going to keep them black and white. And it'll just give you a little bit more sense of other elements of Venice besides just the churches. So I'll invite you to just kind of watch me paint a little bit and see how this first one goes. Okay, so here's a little bit better look at the church illustration. And again, I'm going to do a little spot illustration that's going to go over here in the book. I've got my water source here. I've got my watercolor paints. I use M. Graham, which is paint company in Oregon that makes all four mediums, so watercolor, gouache, acrylic, and oil. I've used all four mediums. I'd say the two I probably use the most are watercolor and acrylic. And throughout the book, I use some different colors, but my two favorite colors that I just go to all the time are ivory black. That's where I got all these grays. So you really don't need much with watercolor. And then cobalt blue is another one of my favorite colors. And you'll see, of course, I've got some red and orange sunsets and some slightly different colors in the book. But most of my memories in Venice are with vibrant blue sky. So I go to the cobalt blue. So thanks to M. Graham for the wonderful paint. Much appreciated. Okay, so I'm just going to work on just small cards. Really, this is cut up 140-pound hot press watercolor paper made by Arches. I just cut it up from a 9x12 pad. And I like the hot press. I work on hot press and cold press, but when I'm doing lots of detail work and I want crisp edges, I like to go for the hot press because it's actually pressed, it's made with heat, and so the surface is really smooth. And I really like the way watercolor responds to the paper. It makes a big difference. I'm going to use a number 7 Kolinsky sable brush. This is a travel brush that I've had for a long time. It's still good because the handle becomes a cover and it really protects it. And I like it because I can still get a very, I don't know if you can see the point, but I can still get a good point with it, but I can also get a very wide brush stroke with my paint. And I've got a ton of different colors here, but I'm just going to use the ivory black, which I always keep right here in the corner. Going to get a little, oh, and by the way, this is, what I'm painting here is a very important part of Venice. It's a Vaporetto stop, and the Vaporetto is essentially water buses. And they go up and down the Grand Canal and some other places in the lagoon as well. But they're on little floating platforms, floating docks, and they come right out into the into the canal. And people wait inside here for the boat to pick them up. And this is right on the Grand Canal. And why I'm painting this is the church that I just showed you, the Chiesa di San Rocco, is easily accessed at the San Tomás stop, which is exactly where this is. And so far, I think I'm going to pretty sure. And I'm just going to keep this black and white. We'll see. But I want these, one thing I know I want these illustrations to be is I want them to be loose. I want them to have just a real delicate sense of the medium, which is watercolor, which is, I mean, water is kind of what Venice is all about, really. So there's no controlling what the water does there. So I'm not gonna control this too much. I'm gonna let it bleed a little bit. And so right here at the water's edge, I knew I wanted this quite wet. I'm just gonna go ahead and let this dry before I proceed with the rest. So I'm getting pretty close to finished, but I'm really discovering that it needs something a little extra than just this ivory black. So what I'm going to actually do is put some vibrant color in there. And the Vaporetti stop have a couple bands of just bright yellow, so they're easy to see. So I'm going to go into my gouache, and I'm going to pull out cadmium yellow light for that. It's a really nice bright. And there are some areas I'd also like to pull the white of the paper back, so I'm going to get into my M-gram white gouache, titanium white and cadmium yellow light. All right, came out pretty decent. I think I'm going to stop right there and see what everybody thinks of this. So I'm going to go ahead and wait for this to dry completely. I'm going to erase some of my initial pencil lines, see what I think of it, and then take a shot for everybody. All right, now let me give you a close-up of the finished illustration. So that's actually my first try at creating these spot illustrations for the book. And I'm going to rely on your opinions as well. Just what do you think of it? Do you think it's too detailed? Do you think it's not detailed enough? I think it was a good place to start. But sometimes when you're trying to come up with the exact right thing for a project you're working on, you don't always nail it on the first time. So I'm curious of your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining me in the studio. It's been a pleasure having you here, and I look forward to filming more videos for you in the near future.